why is waste and sustainability important to you, especially as a young person? I know, Alian, you said in the film that this is our future, and you're exactly right there. Do you want to elaborate on that a bit more?
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess, yeah, I did say in the film that this is our future, the younger generation's future. But also, like, I read on, I read up with my mum on a few things while we were making the film, to like say in the film, and one of the biggest key points that really hit me is that by 2050 there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish, and that in weight, not mass, but like weight, and that was really shocking for me, hearing that, because I read another thing saying that by 2050 there will be 400 million climate refugees from because of climate change or because of loss of food, because of microplastic infecting their fish, because of the islander people, they rely on seafood. So this really shocked me, and that's really what that's really what drove my passion to doing Plastic Free Body. So I think it's really important for our generation to do what we're doing today, because it's our future. Yeah. And we can, if I educate kids, then they will educate their friends or family or teachers. It'll just spread, because the younger generation, I think they should be most involved, because it's their future.
Definitely, especially in a world that seems more connected than ever, and your ability to just reach out and talk like this. We're in the midst of a global pandemic, and yet we're still able to have the Zero Waste Victoria Festival. Nice. So if I can pass that question on to Serena, what makes you, like, why is waste and sustainability important to you as a young person?
Again, I think it's envisioning our planet in the future. I know my family and I, we go on a lot of bushwalks and camping trips, and I get to see all these gorgeous landscapes. And it makes me just see how important it is to protect them. And, you know, you don't want plastic washing up on the beaches and in these streams. And I want future generations to also be able to see, you know, these beautiful places in Australia and around the world, not ruined by waste.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, amazing story there. And Romy, what about you?
I mean, I agree with, sorry, with both what Arlie and Serena have said. I think it's just like more of the element of like not really having a choice and not feeling you have control over what your future is going to look like, especially with like the fact that these plastics have been going into the ocean for like decades, and I have not been around for decades, and they will still be there for hundreds of years. So I think it's just important to like recognize that like it's not just my future, it's also other people that I'm fighting for that aren't born yet. Yeah, and I don't want them to have a planet that's
exactly
disgusting,
because it's not just us that's going to be impacted, it's every single life born from this point on and further, really. But following on that, these are some really difficult and hard issues to face, and often, I know at least I at times felt as if, and I know many of others have seen as like, I'm just one person, or what can I do? And all of you have overcome that in some aspect, if you have felt that way. So maybe for anyone listening or anyone that could pass on that information, have you ever felt as a young person that you couldn't make a difference or achieve your goals? And if so, how did you overcome it? And I'm going to pass it to Serena.
I think that people view it as a massive problem, and it's important to remember that yes, you know, you are just one person, but even implementing the smallest, you know, change in your life or helping others to realize what they can do can make a massive difference. It's just a matter of finding the right way to do that in, you know, in your interest. So for me, that was through my business. Others, it can be through organizing climate strikes like Romy. And yeah, I think just to like dream big is really important, because you can make a difference. Yeah.
Absolutely. Super strong words there. Romy, what about you?
There's definitely been days where it just seems like there's like too much going on. But I think having like a community of like especially climate activists really helps, because like as you said, when you feel like you're just like one person, you don't think you can do much, but when you have like a collective of people who will
Mm,
fight with you, you feel a lot stronger and not alone, which
yeah,
nice.
absolutely. And that was one of the reasons we created the Student Voice Network, so you wouldn't feel alone, or you could have that opportunity to meet like-minded youth, which we can now do, which is really cool. So that if you're someone listening or watching and you are feeling alone and you care about these issues and you want to meet other like-minded people, like the people on this panel, search us up, SVN or Student Voice Network. But yes, Alian, what about you?
Yeah, well, so as I said before I saw these rehabilitated sea turtles, I didn't really know that much about plastic pollution. But when it hit me that turtles are dying, that the animals are dying in the ocean, and I read up of the facts of how many are dying, and then I read up that we're eating and ingesting plastics, that's the moment when I thought, oh my God, I'm a kid, what can I do to stop this? And I guess in that moment, I thought I can't do anything to stop it. I'm just a kid. But with the help of my mum, because she's been in this movement, you might have like I listened to her in the last panel. She's been involved in this climate and environmental movements for like a whole entire life. So she really with me in that sector, and really helped me out by saying, you may be small or young, but you can still make a difference. So I think she really supported me in that. And as I kept on going with Plastic Free Boy and I was on media, and then I made my film and I started showing it to schools, kids would come up to me and say, wow, you're amazing. I want to be just like you. That's what really kept me going.
Yeah, absolutely. And having those key supporters there to keep it going when things get tough. Because as you'd all know, it's much easier to do things together, and you're going to do things much more productively and effectively together than you ever could alone. But from there, I would say, so if you were going to, as you said, you suggested to schools, and Serena, as you said, just talking to people around you, and if you like make advantage of your network, talk to your parents, your school, your local businesses, and so forth, and keep that message going. So if you go with that, tackle local, not global, and then go from there, because if everyone tackles local, we'll get global, which is so important. But if we go down to that local level, and as I think we're all in school at this point, or still school age, I'm in year 12 this year. If you could recommend one thing for every school to do to tackle waste, what would it be? And passing it to Romy.
So at my school, we have gotten rid of bins. So we have no waste bins. We have recycling bins, or like paper bins, and like compost or solar cone bins for like organic waste. And it wasn't just to reduce our waste, although that was a big part of it. It was also to kind of get people to think about what products they're using. So if they're buying like packaging that has like individual packets of foods, they instead buy like a big packet and then like use like Ziploc bags instead. So I think that's been quite effective. We have had to temporarily bring bins back in just because of like COVID and having to like have sanitary waste, disposing waste. But once this is all over, we will be we'll be taking the bins away again. So it's quite exciting. I think it's a good thing to do, especially in a high school, because that's where a lot of people like grow up and kind of ingrain things, and having that kind of situation will really impact the rest of their life, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Like if you create those habits there, that when they, leave school, enter the workforce, then those habits will hopefully stay with them. Nicely put. Serena, what about you?
I think it should be taught in the curriculum for every school. Young people should learn about environment issues and climate change and how they can help, because it's really young people that are going to put pressure on their parents, to maybe buy those foods that aren't in the plastic packaging, or put pressure on their parents to use a compost bin. and they're going to, you know, grow up and, as we were talking about before, like create good habits for the future. So if it was taught in the curriculum, they'll be able to learn about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that one, because for many people, those pathways aren't natural. If you don't have a family that's particularly sustainable, or in that friendship circle, and that there's no kind of natural pathway. Like if we didn't have the amazing teachers I did at my school, I probably wouldn't be the person I am today with like my focus. So shout out to them. Thank you. Okay, Alian.
I guess my response is kind of like Serena's one. It should be in the education. The first step is to educate the young people, because most young people don't even, well, more and more they're starting to learn because of the climate strikes. It's becoming so popular, but most young people don't even know about plastic pollution. Like I tell a little story, just when I started Plastic Free Boy, I was on the street telling people about my project, and I was with my friend, and then these two kids from my school came up to me and said, "Why do you want to save the sea turtles? Like they're just stupid for eating plastics." And I know, right? And I was thinking, oh my God, this is crazy. That these kids don't even know. And then this other kid came up to me and said, "Well, it's not harming me. In the future, when climate change and global warming takes over the world, I'll just dig a hole and live in there." Like, I think it's just education is the key, because when you educate someone and then they're aware, then okay, we need to tackle this issue. So yeah, I agree with Serena.
Absolutely there. And especially if you aren't aware of something, then you're not going to care about it. And if you're not going to care about it, you're not going to act. I'm pretty sure everyone on this panel and anyone attending this event now would have had a situation where they've gone like, oh, this is a thing. And like, why do you care? How many times I've heard from even people like my age being like, oh, like, let's act on climate change. And they're like, oh, I'll be dead by the time it hits. And then you're like, and you have to have a bit of a conversation. But it could go from that. So let's move up a level. So if that's one thing you'd recommend for schools to do based on education and a bin policy and so forth, great action points there. If you could make one change for our government to do, and if you're going to say local level, but also state and federal, what would be your statement to the government for action on waste? And go, Alian.
Gosh, I don't really think about the government that much. I mostly think about the individual or the groups of the public. But that's a hard question. I guess just making these rules, well, not really rules, but yeah, you could say rules in the schools, because the younger generation, the schools is where there's education, and where there's education, there's movement. Like something will happen out of that education. Kids will get a degree and then eventually they'll get jobs. But I think if the government's focused on the schools and sending the right education to the schools, then the kids who are in the schools will be educated in an environmental level. And then, where the schools are, we go to school every single day. And it's kind of ingrained in our mind okay, we learned something at school, that's the right thing. So if we learn about taking care of the environment, or environmental scientists visiting schools, then we'll learn and we'll adapt, and then we'll change. If you get yeah.
You look at Greta Thunberg, for example, her argument for starting the school strike was that she'd been told, and I'm sure you guys would have heard this as well, go to school, get an education, go to university, get a job, solve the climate crisis. However, we have the solutions. It was just the government, big corporations, individuals that weren't taking the change. We had the solutions, it just wasn't happening. So putting that education system where you are aware and you are in a position to act is just so vital in any strong movement. So Romy, then one thing, if you could, take over the government for a day, very peacefully, of course, what would you do?
Oh, I do a lot of things. But waste.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I would probably put in some mandates for plastic production, it's actual production itself. Because I feel like the rate at which we're producing plastic is kind of ridiculous. I mean, we make so much plastic, and I think there needs to be some legislation. Honestly, I have really no idea. But it seems like something that could be potentially looked at as an area for improvement.
No, definitely. Like that kind of convenience culture where you're just, waiting for the next plastic bottle or the next thing, and fast. However, just taking it down a notch and seeing what you don't need. How many reusables can you get from Planet Angel and everything else like that. Serena, if you were planning for world domination, what would you do to help waste?
I agree with both Romy and Ali, but education is really, really important. But I was thinking that the government could, provide some incentives for companies to produce recycled materials, because then it would boost the recycling industry, I guess. And also if the general public was educated into, the benefits of purchasing recycled products, and they were encouraged to purchase, and the companies were encouraged to produce, then it could boost that industry, and we could recycle most of our waste. So I think that'd be a cool thing for the government to do.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's so important. Just so well done. Very nice. So next thing. Now I know when there are many lanes on the road to change, and I know it's so debatable to talk about which one is the most relevant and which one's going to be the most effective. However, could you guys, all of you, explain why you chose your road? Why did you choose filming and arts and direction, or why did you choose to start a business? So Romy, why did you go into school strike and protesting? What made you go that chain of activism? And Romy.
I chose school strike because it was right there. It was the easiest kind of way straight into the movement. I would have no idea how to start a business, so that wasn't going to happen. I also think that school strike itself is a really good way to reach a large proportion of the population, and kind of get that message out really quickly and really effectively, because it was all over the news, and it kind of stopped cities. So it really elevated the message that we had. And I think the way that we go about having our strikes and putting Indigenous voices and people who are affected directly right now is really important, and keeping that in mind whenever we talk about climate change solutions, because obviously this isn't just something that's happening in the future, it's happening now, and making sure that we recognize that there is inequality within that, and keeping that central to the solutions that we have, which I think is really important to school strike, and that's really why I like being in it.
Yeah, absolutely. And just bringing that public media attention, bringing it to the forefront is just an excellent way, or a platform for awareness to create that change. Serena, what about you, starting a business?
I've always had a thing for business. Since all I can remember, in year 7, I used to say to people, they'd be like, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? Oh, I want to start a business, And in year 9, my school Strathcona, we had a program called Envision, where they taught us all about how to start a business, and I got really interested. So I did a program, I enrolled in heaps of programs outside of school to learn more. I started a terrarium business where I would sell little plants and things at markets, which was really cute. And then I wanted to, have that impact on people with the environment, have a positive impact on that. And I started Planet Angels, and I sell reusable products, like reusable shopping bags and straws and bamboo toothbrushes, stuff like that. And I think that was it was it's my passion. I don't
No.
I really enjoy teaching people and about how to make the switches and selling my products.
No, absolutely. It's just because everyone's going to be different about passionate things, but brought together by the same movement or the same areas of interest. Waste is just incredible. That you can't just have. Imagine if everyone started a business. We're just so lucky that Serena has started such a great one, and we're trying to fill up all those lanes in that road. Aliam, what about you?
I think my one was kind of the same as Romy, because it was with filmmaking. My mum was a professional filmmaker. It was there, and also like we wanted to work together as well. But also, I think filmmaking with films, you can like in person with presentations. Like, sure, Plastic Free Boy could present at every single school, but how slow would that be to really spread the message? But with a film, you know, with like technology these days, you can just go whoop, pressing a button and it's gone. So you can like spread it really fast with films. So yeah, I think that's why I chose filmmaking. Yeah.
No, I know for me personally, when I started at SVN, it was around the idea that you go to, for us at least, you go to training session after training session, workshop after workshop, collaborating with all these incredible organizations, and I'd feel more motivated than ever to create change. However, after a while, I felt like after I'd done a couple of things the organisation had asked me to do, I'd be back to square one. Or at least as a youth, I wouldn't be able to start my own project or create a real impact through that organisation. And that support maybe wasn't there. So even though we have so many incredible organisations, being able to collaborate with young person and having our voice heard, and being able to target those schools directly. Like I know for me, for instance, how can you get like 200 people trapped in a room like you can in an auditorium or an assembly? So you can present a film or you can put together an idea. So just using those schools as the platform for change, which is just amazing. Okay, and I really want to try and do as much time for questions from the audience as possible. So one thing left from me today, and then from all of you, if you wanted people to remember one thing from this panel, what would it be and why? And passing it, who would be the most prepared to just? Yes, we got Alian. Yeah, go for it.
Wait, so sorry, what was the question? Oh my god, I'm sorry. What was the question?
Oh no. If you wanted people to remember one thing from this panel, what would it be and why? Yeah.
So there's one thing that is, try your best to reduce your consumption of single-use plastic. Single-use plastic is incredibly dangerous for the environment and for us as well because of microplastic. But that's another topic. But reducing your consumption of 3 main plastics. Plastic bags. Well, the whole world is like reducing plastic bags so quickly. It's so great. But plastic bags, plastic bottles, and plastic straws. These are the 3 things that we really do not need. We can get a reusable reusable bag, reusable bottle, and reusable straw. It's the best alternative. So yeah, remember that.
Takeaway. No, we'll be quizzing you next week. Remember. No, nice. Serena, what about you? One takeaway.
I think one massive takeaway would be that, you know, no matter your age, no matter your background, you can make a change and you can make a difference in your life or impact people around you, educate them, use social media to educate. And I think that it's important to remember that even though you are one person, you know, when we all come together and we all educate each other and learn from each other and make those switches to reusables, we can have a massive impact on our environment around us.
Yeah, absolutely. What a great takeaway. And with this last takeaway, remember to bring your reusables. Romy, what about you?
I think what Alian said was perfect. I mean, reducing what you can, whether that be plastic bottles, like plastic bags, even like going to, what are they called? They're called like health food stores, but they're like whole food places.
Yeah, there's one, sorry, one called The Source. Is that what you mean? Whole food? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And like having containers that you, instead of like buying like flour, you can just get a container and reuse that and take it and get it filled up by weight there. So it's just small things you can do that really have an impact and are not huge changes. So I think that's just important. The one thing you should remember.
Yeah, fantastic. So really just reach what you can, change what you can, and really just do the best by you, because really doing the best by you in this instance is going to help. It's going to be the best by everyone. Very nice. So I'll have a look at the questions from the audience. Have you got anything? Nice. So we've got one here. Who do we want to start with? Okay. Let's look. So we've got one here from Carolina. I'm very sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. What do you think can be done to change how we do things? So how are we going to be changing things? Should it be done on an individual level? Should it be done on a systematic level, on a schools level? What do you think can be done to change how we do things? Passing that one to Serena.
I think making changes on all levels is really important. So the government can make changes like we were talking about before, and I'm sure there's many other ways that I can't think of off the top of my head. But also schools can educate people, implement the waste bins like Romy was talking about, make those changes, but then also the individual can make changes like bulk food shopping and making those switches, using a compost bin at home, recycling their waste, doing things like that. So I think on all levels you can make changes, and when you combine those all together, that's when a big difference in the movement starts to build.
Definitely. Romy or Alian, do you have anything to add to that?
If I can go, I think I'm going to put what Serena said, and I'm not going to repeat it because why? But yeah, what Serena said, perfect.
Love that. So next one. No, because especially I remember my mum telling me that when, back in her day, you'd go to the library and get a card and search for the book. However, all these things. However, I'm just there on Instagram and not as much Facebook, but Instagram really, and all these other platforms as well. So do you think the ability to communicate and the difference in technology, or what mediums so what question is here? What mediums and motivations do you credit with being able to speak for those without a voice? Oh, what a stunning question that one is. So I'll repeat that again for our panelists. What mediums and motivations do you credit with being able to speak for those without a voice? And then to the trillions of animals and humans as yet unborn. Yeah. Anyone have a response to that one?
I can go. I think social media, as you said, Lucy, has been really important in getting the message out. Obviously, as young people, most of us are on social media. And so using that platform to really elevate our voice as young people and elevate the voices of people who are directly impacted is a lot easier, and you can reach really large audiences. And a lot of older people are getting on Facebook, stuff like that now. So it's easier to kind of connect with people who aren't immediately where you live. Like with Greta Thunberg, it spread from Sweden to across the world. A lot of it was through social media. So I think it's really important that we have that kind of tool to elevate our voice.
I feel like so many young people these days, they don't just have a profile, they don't just have this, but every young person has a brand almost, and it's what you choose to put out, because not too many young people before this probably would have been yes, I have a brand. However, it just seems more and more like it with social media. You've got that platform, you've got your voice, and it's up to you to choose what kind of voice you want to be and use these platforms for good, which is very helpful. Okay, just so we can get through more of them. Okay, we've got one here from Mark. Do you find that adults are largely overwhelmed by the number of issues challenging humanity, or is the indifference to the need for change coming from a lack of education? Yes. Okay. Do you want me to read that one again? Oh, good. Sorry?
Can you read that again?
Oh, let's read it again. Yeah, we got this. Do you find, that's the start, do you find that adults are largely overwhelmed by the number of issues challenging humanity, or is the indifference to the need for change coming from a lack of education? Do you think they know lots and lots about it, so they're overwhelmed by it, or do you think the indifference is coming from the lack of education? So lots of education, choosing not to do it, or no education, choosing not to do it. I think the of action here is the question.
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I think it's a bit of both. I think people do see it as this massive problem and it might overwhelm some people, but if you concentrate on like the small things and just focus on the next step that you could take as a family or as an individual in reducing your waste, then it doesn't seem as big and as overwhelming. But also I think education is really, really important, and lots of people aren't educated and they don't know about it. Therefore, they don't know the steps they can take. And
Yeah. No, I remember feeling so much guilt when I first found out about climate change, because it was then that I truly realized what my impact was and what I was impacting on was bigger than me. So making sure that you have that awareness to be able to act. Alan, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, well, basically what Serena said, I find it's a bit of both. Adults, they either hear or learn about plastic pollution or climate change from the news or social media or their friends or their family, or they can even hear it from their kids. And when they hear it from their kids, I find that it really touches them for most parents, and really like feels, oh wow, my kid is being impacted by climate change or plastic pollution, so I'll act. So that's, I kind of answered another question as well, but yeah.
And going on to that, I don't know if this is the question you're referencing, the ability to tell stories and share your impact and your own experiences as that emphasis for change. I don't know if that was the question you were after, but that's the next question we'll look at here. So one we've got here is, where do you draw your storytelling inspiration from to package messages and make it engaging and relevant? Then focus on, how do you focus the messages for the audience you're talking to? So for instance here, is it the story of how you got started? Is it that story when you were 11 years old and you saw those sea turtles? Or is it that you just had a passion for business, or that you just knew you needed to change, so you wanted to find the first group that you could join, and that just happened to organise national school strikes that have changed the way we see the climate movement? Where did that storytelling inspiration come from for you? And then do you ever choose to focus your story and focus your, like, who you're telling it to for your audience? Anyone have a response straight away?
Yeah, I definitely think.
I'll go.
You go.
Yeah, you go.
We'll go.
I'll go, or you go. Okay.
Yeah.
I hope I'm answering the question again. I hope I'm not like going somewhere else. But the audience that I try to hone into is the younger generation, because the younger generation, plus I hone into the older generation, of course, as well, like the families and parents. But the younger generation, it's our future in a way. Like, it's our future, and if we educate the younger generation, not only are they hearing the facts about plastic pollution and climate change, but they're also hearing it from a younger person, from a kid, that it's impacting not only my future but their future as well. So I find that they will act more than adults do. I'm not meaning to offend anyone, but yeah. But I think like parents would act as well because they want to protect their kids. But yeah, I hope I answered the question. Yeah.
That sounded pretty good to me. Especially, I know I'm definitely one to hear a question that answer a completely different question. But along the lines of storytelling, I know for me, at least when it comes to climate change, not everyone's going to care about the same things, and not everyone's going to care about the reason that you care about that issue. For instance, I know someone who isn't particularly all that interested in sustainability or the environment. However, their dream is to have a house on the beach. It's their one and true dream and goal in life, and have that house on the beach. However, instead of going, yes, it is species extinction and it's sea level rise and it's social justice and all the other like reasons to care about so many different issues, you can then target it to that person going, did you know sea level rise, you know, you might not be able to take an insurance for that house. Did you know that that house may not even be there? Like, you know, and it's all those things that impact them personally that may drive that change for them. Right. So we've got, oh, okay, very nice. We've got lots and lots of different options here. Okay, so we've got one here from, Aaliyah. I really hope I pronounced your name right there. Heading back into school now, how would you suggest we start to educate our school community, including getting the school leaders on board? It would be great to become a waste-free binless school. What a fantastic question there. Romy, that's coming from a wasteless binless school. Would you like to answer this one?
I think you're better suited, Lucy. I mean, you're the one who created the idea.
No, just we had Miss Magoshi created the idea, and then I just went, that sounds good, let's do that. And then took on leading it from the student side of things. But if I answer this one, sorry, MC taking over here. But in terms of becoming a waste-free school, the best thing, again, is to start on that side of education. If you make a big change within your school and you don't back it up with that community support, if you take something away, or just trying to make sure that although you're taking bins away, you're adding a culture of sustainability and you're adding a culture of looking after each other. And I think as we were talking to teachers at our school, and this during COVID, what it's really emphasized is that we're in this together. You know, you stay indoors together, or you stay indoors, you know, stay apart, and we're doing this for everyone, really. And that comes down to sustainability as well. You act not only for yourself, but you act for the greater good of everyone. And following that message of sustainability comes in so many different ways. So even if you sacrifice that convenience element, but something about in order for sustainability, but something that really helped with our bins plan was that we're often so after this convenient sort of lifestyle that we need the closest bin, the closest wrap thing, ... However, by taking away the bins, it means that we promote, and then you have to take your waste home with you. It makes a sustainable option the easier option because you can dispose of all your waste at home. Well, you can dispose of all your waste at school, and that means you only have to bring your packaging home, meaning you probably want to bring less packaging to school in order to bring it home, creating those, like that justification for you and your lifestyle. But just by looking after each other, follow on that mentality after COVID, because I think that is really strong right now, which is really good. I hope I answered that question and didn't go off on too many other tangents in the road. One thing there. I want to be a politician, so I'm getting my training of dodging questions now, or at least not too much there. I'm a primary school teacher. Do you know of any books or websites I can encourage my kids to learn from? I could probably recommend a good film that I just saw. That would be very helpful there, and a good business which might get you started. However, is there anyone else on the panel that do you know good books or websites, or just I'm going to further that to resources that you yourself have learned from and that you would recommend for others?
I'll go. A recommendation is my website, plasticfreeboy.com. As you saw the film that we just saw, my mum and I, we worked together with someone else to do a matrix where kids can work online, either in their school or at home. The matrix or the lesson plan on our website, plasticfreeboy.com, and it's just a bunch of activities: maths, English, geometry, that's maths, geography, and all of those subjects are in this matrix. So go check it out. Yeah.
Love that bit of promo there. Romy, Serena, anything to add?
I did a panel a while back with Anne Sanson. She's like a child psychologist, I think, and she made a little pamphlet that has resources on how to talk to your children about climate change. So if that's also something that would be helpful, you can look up her online. She works at University of Melbourne, so just Anne Sanson.
Absolutely, and having climate change can see, I felt when I first heard about climate change that my future was almost being stolen from me. These are huge issues that aren't to be taken lightly, and making sure that we protect people's mental health surrounding these issues are really important as well. So great suggestion there, Romy. Serena, anything to add?
Not really.
No, very fair. Straight to the point, Serena. Like it very much. Nice. Okay, we've got one from Lauren. If I have an idea for change in my school or community, what are the first steps for getting that change started? I think we've all got something there. That's in terms of tips. And we've only got a couple minutes left, so this will probably be our second last question. Do you want me to read that again? Because I'm on a bit of a tangent. Would that be helpful? Yes, let's read the question again. If I have an idea for changing my school or community, what are the first steps to getting started or getting that change started? Okay.
Can I answer that first?
Yes, of course, Serena.
I think really talking to everyone you possibly can, spreading the message, educating people, whether that's in person, on social media, talking to your teachers, your principal, your friends, talking to different friend groups, really just spreading the message.
No, absolutely. I remember learning about climate change, and then I was talking to people I barely knew in year 7 on the tram home, being like, have you heard about this? You know, so really, even if you don't, like, you know, I think all of us environmentalists, especially if you're taking the time to come to Zero Waste Victoria Festival, you're probably that kind of person already who's willing to step out and really start these conversations. So keep those going. Nice. Romy or Alian?
I think finding a teacher that can be like your support. So like if you go talk to like a principal or like a higher up person in your school, that's a weird way to put it. They can be there with you. They can help you through the process, and they can just be like someone you can go talk to if you need to brainstorm new ideas, someone you can like vent to if it's just not going at the moment and the school's just being really annoying. Yeah, and just having that, like a teacher that you know you can trust and work things out with.
Yeah, and there's always someone there, even if you don't know it. If I'm going to go off that one, because I love that point so much from me, is that if you have someone in your corner, this is what we always recommend in SVN, is that once you've signed up for your school, then find that teacher support, find that ally, because even if they don't know, you know, exactly where to go, and like even if they don't know the exact answer, they're probably going to be the ones who know more than you to direct that information. Because most students, they're not going to know, can I put this poster up? How do I start a fundraiser? How can I do this? So if you go to that teacher, even if they're directly, they're probably going to know the next step or the next pathway for you. So back yourself up there. Nicely said, Romy. Alian, anything there?
Yeah, Romy took the words right out of my mouth, so thanks. But I think another alternative or solution is to reduce the waste in the canteen. Like every school has a canteen, or like some places in Australia call it tucker shop. Yeah. Anyway, so in the canteen, if there's plastic straws, then ask your principal or someone high up in the school to ban straws, or bottles or bags or plastic bags, and replace an alternative like paper straws or bamboo straws that everyone can get, and then they wash and then reuse. Not in Corona time, but yeah, you know what I mean? Getting
Love that.
the canteen, yeah.
Nice. Okay, so we've got 1 minute left. However, I'd love to quickly answer this question for us. If I have an idea for change in my school community, what are the first steps to getting change started? So you've had some fantastic recommendations from our panelists here. However, if you're looking for more support or even just to find a network, I would, without a doubt, say sign up to SVN. Yeah, Romy's like, oh, okay. No, but sign up to SVN, because whether you're a student, you can meet other like-minded students. If you're a teacher, you can be a voice for students there, and we're more than happy to support you all the way. But also the idea of if one school creates one poster, that one poster might only be shared across that one school, reaching 1,000 or so students, dependent on the school, of course. However, if you share that resource within SVN and you can share that across a network of schools across the country with little extra effort, you can impact thousands of people, which I think is really important. So whether you want to lead that project, whether you want to talk to your school, if you want to get advice from other schools, because they may have already been in that position, maybe they're able to give you resources so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I would 100% direct you to Student Voice Network. I will advise you that our phone version of our website is a little bit horrendous. However, the website version on laptop is much nicer. So I would direct you there. Hopefully, just to finish up here, because, well, we've run out of time. Thank you so much to our panelists for jumping on and sharing your expertise and sharing your journeys. It's been so empowering for me and inspiring for, I'm sure, everyone here. And I look forward to the change that we can create together in the world with all of us and so many more in it we're going to see.